Time for some real talk. It's funny how something in life can become a meme, can become kind of a joke in such a way that we start to not take it seriously. Or maybe it's a defense mechanism. Well, you read the title of this video. You already know where I'm going with this. So for me, as a person, if you've watched my videos before, I like to keep things real. I like to be honest and not hide things. It's kind of been a burden on my mind that we should be talking about this more. There are lots of different things we should be talking about more, but this is a piece that I can add to that puzzle. Creators and ADHD. On YouTube, on Twitter, we're always hearing creators talk about their ADHD, their struggles with mental health and things like that. And it makes it seem like when you're in your own little bubble, your own community, oh, everyone must have ADHD, or maybe I have ADHD. I don't know, maybe you do. But inside the creator circle, it is incredibly common because of the nature of ADHD, in that we have an innate need to have accomplishment. People call it dopamine hits or stimulation. And when you're a creator, you work on a project, the project is finished, you get that hit of dopamine, you can move on to the next project. Whereas when I've worked in other jobs, and I'm sure that some people who feel the same way as me can attest to this, like a call center or something, where there is no major discrete accomplishment going on, it is internally draining. We just can't handle it in the long term. So being a photographer, that's fantastic for me because you finish a wedding, you ship it out to the client, it's this discrete package of completion that feels fantastic. Another great thing about it is creativity relies on distractedness a lot of the time. It relies on our ability to be thinking about other things, to be considering other options that we shouldn't necessarily be thinking about while we're doing what we're doing. All the while, though, it also means that we're terrible at running businesses. We make a huge mess. We have trouble keeping track of things. And so, what do we do about it? Well, this year I went on a little journey of diagnosis and getting medicated. Tried a few different things. Now, I am not a doctor, so don't take my advice as a medical professional, because I am not. Speak to your own psychologist, psychiatrist, or medical practitioner about this if you have concerns. So initially, I was hoping that getting diagnosed and getting treated would assist me in doing the hard things, like doing taxes and doing paperwork. These things that I just hate doing, and that as someone with ADHD, there's a constant pull inside me to not be doing those things. And it's astonishing how hard those pulls are. If you don't have ADHD, you might not understand how painful it can be to focus on a task that you do not like. And so, getting medicated. I was expecting that to help that. But it didn't. But it helped me in ways that I didn't expect. Number one, what change did it make creatively speaking? I have heard some people say that getting medicated might dampen your creativity. Now, different medications can have slightly different effects. I took bifenton and I'm now on Foquest, which is a ultra-long release. It might have a different name outside of Canada, so it lasts 12 to 15 hours, which is great for me because I'll often have long wedding days, or I get home or finish a work day and I still have to, take care of the kids and make supper and such. Yes, it makes me less distracted and in some ways less creative, but at the same time it keeps me more focused on what I'm doing with less exhaustion and distraction. And so I would say that on the creative scale, it's kind of a wash. I have noticed that my work has changed a little bit. It's a little less out there, but also more consistent. How do you scale what is more important there? Now, the great thing about most ADHD medication is that it's a stimulant that doesn't last very long, so some days you can take it, some days you can't. This is not what my doctor wants me to do. However, this is a possibility. And I find that when I'm working on YouTube videos and research projects where I just need to tinker and do random things, it's almost better to not be on it because I need my mind to wander and to creatively think of other avenues, and that's what I'm used to doing. But because of that, I spent less time on my YouTube videos this week because when I'm medicated, I sit down and I do the work that is most important, which is usually my client work. And I don't get distracted from that so much, which is good for some things, but not for my YouTube productions. Which leads me to the most unexpected effect of getting medicated. I wasn't acutely aware of this in the past, but now I am. A lot of mornings, when I have a lot of different things that I could be doing, and no great way of deciding what I should be doing, I would get slowed down, I would get distracted, and I would get depressed. But when I am taking my medication, which is a fairly low dose, I sit down and I start working on whatever is most important that day. And it's amazing how such a small change has resulted unexpectedly in an enormous boost to my mental health. What I was looking for was a boost to productivity, a boost to reliability. I didn't realize that my mental health could be assisted so thoroughly by doing this, so that's fantastic. The most unexpected change for me was my personal enjoyment of my work. Let me elaborate. I'm a wedding photographer, and I was planning on quitting eventually. During the pandemic, I had grown so tired of weddings, not just doing them, but the politics surrounding them. But generally speaking, after shooting over 150 weddings, you see a lot of the same things over and over. And before I was medicated, this became needlessly painful. I would be at a wedding, and the same event happening that I've seen 150 times before, I would find it agonizing. No fault to anyone there or the people involved. It's just the way that my brain was. And then, suddenly, after becoming medicated, these things didn't really bother me anymore. We'll be having the shoe game again, or whatever, bouquet toss, or whatever wedding day tradition that people tend to have over and over and over. All of a sudden, it didn't bother me in the least. Originally, I was fully aware that my annoyance at these things was entirely unreasonable. But thankfully, all of a sudden, medicated on FoQuest, I just wasn't really bothered by that anymore. And so I went from planning to quit weddings again to shooting 26 weddings this year and just absolutely having a blast at it. And I am so thankful for that, because initially weddings were a passion. I loved shooting weddings. They're great, some huge amount of work to focus on. You meet great people, you do great things, you make great art. And it was a shame that I was probably going to lose that just because my brain wouldn't allow me to enjoy it as much as I should be enjoying it. It's funny because the doctor said, oh, you might find that you're cleaning the house more often and so forth. Not necessarily the case, because again, I sit down and I do what I feel is most important. I'm not getting distracted by chores, I'm just sitting down and doing my work. And so, no, things are not any cleaner than they used to be, but I'm getting the most important work done much faster, which is good. Another interesting thing is that I no longer fall asleep at my desk. Now, you might just think that maybe I'm overtired or something, but it seems to be that my mind wandering while I'm editing would greatly exacerbate the issue of falling asleep while working. But while on the medication, my mind stays on the task that I'm supposed to be on, and it keeps me from disappearing into daydreams, which accelerates your tiredness and your mind detaching from the real world and falling asleep. So that's great for productivity too. However, being on a stimulant, which most ADHD drugs are, I do find I need a little bit more sleep at night, which is unfortunate, because I have 2 kids and a job and these cats, and needing more sleep takes more time, so that's kind of a shame. But I would say it's worth it in the long run. One negative downside that I was worried about, and did turn out to be true, is rooted in the fact that when I'm drinking caffeine, my anxiety level increases. It's a fairly common thing. I was hoping that ADHD medication wouldn't do this. Now it does it less. However, big social situations where I'm not working, if I'm acting as a photographer, this doesn't bother me because I have a job to do, but my generalized social anxiety is slightly increased by being treated for this. Which leads me to wonder, is there a better drug that I should be on? A lot of people have to try multiple medications before they find the one that works for them, but I'm worried that I will lose all the pluses that I have from this medication that have really changed my life for the better. And so I'm pretty happy where I am right now. Ultimately, I'm not here to talk at you, I'm here to talk with you. So let me know in the comments what your experience is and has been, and if there's anything that's held you back from moving towards what might give you a better quality of life. We're all a work in progress. We're all growing, we're all changing. And just because we might need a little bit of assistance along the way doesn't mean that we're not trying to be who we were meant to be all along. She was meant to be fluffy and chubby, and I was meant to create things and do technology. That's what's great about photography and videography for me. There's always something new to learn, always something new to focus on. There's just no end. With that in mind, I'm going to go take some photos.